And my audio is super weird.
Can you guys all hear us?
Hello, can anyone hear me? It sounds fancy. I'm very, very delayed.
Can everyone hear us? You can hear me with reverb and an echo. And the webcams aren't working either, are they? The cams are frozen. Okay, one sec. Let's fix that. Da, da, da. Sorry, guys. Of course, everything was working about 20 minutes ago, and then it just decided to stop working. That's usually how these things go. There. Are we unfrozen? Can you see us? There we go. Fantastic. All right, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Sorry about all these issues that we've been having here. Usually this doesn't happen, but I'm glad we're all sorted now. Sound is really odd. What's wrong with the sound? Is it delayed? Is there reverb? What's going on with that? See if I can fix it.
Mute yourself on Zoom.
I did.
Hello, can you guys hear me too?
Odd.
Super, super delayed. And the webcam moving? Yep, okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to use this thing called Voice Meter, and apparently it just doesn't want to work very well. I wish I had a solution here. There's another mic picking us up. Oh, hold on. Let's remove that. That might be the issue. Oh, I think I've got... Now it's nice. Is it better now for everybody? Yay!
Hello.
We did it! Good job! Alright. I still hear reverb for Andy there. It's echoing. Andy, if you just want to turn your sound down, I guess, on your computer, so it's just not picking it up. That's the key. My God, this is harder than coding GameGlass.
How's that?
It's pretty good. Yeah, I think the echo's a little bit better now. Great. Is that good for everybody? Are we good to get started now? We're good enough? We're good enough.
Everyone got it?
We're good
You can hear
enough.
everybody?
Okay, well, let's start officially Welcome to the stream. I'm Craig. This is Andy. We started GameGlass together in January, we actually see quite a few friendly faces here. That's great. And we got some cool stuff to share with you guys today. Some features, some announcements, some new stuff. Yeah. So, why don't we let's just dive right in. If actually, before we start, if you have a question, brackets question, and then put your question in chat, and we'll get to it at the end. We'll start collecting them and get to them at the end. Actually, this is probably a good time, Andy, as well, to start our first giveaway. It will run for 30 minutes, so you can sign up for the next 30 minutes. So let's do that. Let us start this giveaway. Your giveaway has started. And I guess it's exclamation mark raffle if you want to join the giveaway. Yep, and it's working. Awesome. So at least that works. Cool. All right. So that'll run for a half hour, and then we'll pick a winner at the end of that half hour.
So just to give, I suppose, everyone a quick rundown, we'll chat. We've got a few things to chat about today. We've got some new things to show off. We've got some secret project things to show you. We'll run a Q&A at the end, so we'll be collecting questions until the end. So either save them up or as Craig said, put them in now, but we'll do the Q&A at the end after we've told you about all the stuff that we're going to do. We've got some GameGlass platform stuff to talk about. We've got some brand new stuff to talk about. So hopefully there'll be some cool stuff for people.
Yeah, let me just pull up. Sorry, I had to restart right before we started the stream, and I had everything set up, and now I have nothing set up. So I just need to pull in our schedule here. 1 second. Okay. So the first thing let's talk about is time cards. So this is one of the less exciting things, but it's still a good feature to have. So Andy, why don't you talk about time cards, just because you've been wrangling that a little bit more than I have.
Yeah, so we thought we'd give you guys a few quick updates on some platform stuff we're working on before we get to the super exciting stuff. A few kind of platform housekeeping things. One of the things we've done is we've changed a little bit the way we manage time for glass passes. So previously what you would do is you would buy a month's worth, or month or 6 months or 12 months of GlassPass, and it would start and end in a calendar month, essentially. It's still doing that, but now you can buy or grab another chunk of time and it'll just get tacked on to whatever time you've got left for your GlassPass. So it lets you not clip the end. So if you've got 10 days left on your GlassPass and you buy another month, you'll just get a month plus 10 days. It'll make it a bit easier for you to manage your glass passes. It'll also let us do really cool things like handing out 5 days worth of glass pass or 10 days worth of glass pass to everybody. So that's something that will be going live hopefully next week, and you'll see it in your account dashboard as well, how much time you have left on your glass pass.
Cool. All right, let's hop into some beefy things. So the first one we want to talk about. These are just incrementally going to get better, just so everybody knows.
Yeah. And that's it. Thanks very much for joining us. Time cards.
Yeah, time cards. That's it. So the first thing we want to talk about is now that we have a new website up and the design language for GameGlass has changed, what we're going to be doing is releasing a redesign of host, the client, or the host that runs on your PC. So what you're seeing here is it's very similar, but it just follows the same design language that we have on our site. Nothing super special, and there's not much to talk about other than just to show it off to you guys and see, so you can see what we're going to be doing with it. So it's not just going to be that screen. Obviously, it's going to be all the screens that you'll see. So we're going to do a host redesign. So everything just follows the same design language. So that's pretty straightforward as well.
I should mention that down the road, our plan is that the host application on your PC become a bit more of a a hub for controlling GameGlass. So in the future, from there, you'll be able to do things like assign shards to, if you've got multiple devices attached to your host, you'll be able to assign shards to devices. You'll be able to set up essentially sets of shards and devices for different games or different roles within games. So in the future, the host will be more of a hub for controlling GameGlass and managing a lot more of how it works. And this is one of the very, very first steps towards that.
Yeah, and actually, going down that path, one of the most requested features we've got is the ability to customize your keybinds. And that's something we've planned on doing from the start. And it's something we need to do, especially for future games. Have way more flexibility on how we're handling that. So version 1 of this, obviously, with Star Citizen was we give you keybinds, you import those keybinds, and you're kind of stuck with those keybinds, which is never our long-term plan. But it was the fastest thing that we could get out to everybody, and it still works fine. It's just we wanted more accessibility with that. So the next thing we want to talk about is what we're going to be doing with keybinds. So let me just show this next screen here. So what's going to happen in the new host is you're going to be able to choose your game, and your game will have specific settings for it. So in this instance, you'll see Star Citizen here. You'll have an installation directory, and you will have an imported list of different keybind profiles from that directory. So if you've got the GameGlass defaults, obviously that'll be in all of your directories. But you also have any keybind profiles you've made just by yourself. So yeah, so basically what that means is you'll be able to go in here, you'll be able to choose GameGlass defaults, or if you want to choose, if you have a different setup, you can choose Alfredo's super secret sauce binds. And what that's going to do is it's going to choose your binds and have GameGlass work with your binds. If there's anything that's not set by default that we need, we'll just basically overwrite that and we'll make it work with GameGlass properly. So you'll be able to use your keybinds with GameGlass. This is the next step to it, especially because when we start working on Elite Dangerous, that game's been out for a long time and people have dialed in their keybinds over 5 years. We have no interest in completely erasing those for people. So basically, this is how it's going to work in the next version. The version beyond that, you'll be able to go in and have an editor where you can customize everything yourself. So yeah, Andy, do you want to tack on anything to the keybinds?
No, just as Craig mentioned, we know that people have their keybinds set up in ways that are very specific to them. I know I've got a whole bunch of different key binding setups for different games. It's super, super important for us that we make that as frictionless and as effortless as possible and as accommodating to what your keybinds are. So that's definitely the goal. They'll be easier to use in the future when we go to this. Then, as Craig said, the future of GameGlass is being even more accommodating to customization for things like keybinds.
Yep. Okay, so let's move on to something really fun here. If you have any questions about keybinds, obviously put them in chat. Just to preface it with a question in bracket thing, like everyone else has been doing. So what we're gonna look at next is boom. So we've been doing a bunch of work on Elite Dangerous. So some people here may have seen an old version of Elite that we designed quite some time ago. But since we have obviously completely redone that. We've kept a lot of different things in mind, and we've just basically completely redone the entire interface. And there's some really cool stuff, actually, we want to discuss regarding this interface. So right now, when you're looking at it, the night vision, the bottom right there, you're going to be seeing that as an active state. So if you press that night vision button, that's what it's going to look like when you press the button. Some of them will have toggle states that look like that as well. And the 75% on the throttle, as you can see, that has been pressed as well, just to give you an idea of what the colors are going to look like. So, Andy, do we want to talk about how the log works next, or should we show just the different functionality?
Let's just go through these for now. So I think definitely the intent of Elite Dangerous and any shard we produce is really trying to make the things you do inside games easier to do. So it's a bit more it's a bit less friction when you play these games, but also definitely more immersive as well. So we really want it to feel like it's part of the game that you're playing and not just a random grid of buttons. Elite Dangerous's shape language and design language is quite grid-like. It's lots of rectangles and squares. But we've really tried to bring in kind of some of the GameGlass DNA of how we'd like to design things. And what we're doing all the time is we're trying to think about what different roles are you doing when you're playing these games, and generally they kind of get grouped into certain things. You're either flying around, and you're doing kind of general flying around things, or you're in combat and you're doing very combat specific things. So that's kind of why we tend to group our shards sort of the way we do. So for Elite Dangerous, we really tried to think about, what are the most common things you do day to day when you're just flying around. I can't tell you the number of times I've launched heat sinks when I tried to go into silent running, and I've got a whole bunch of different keybinds for my HOTAS, and they're all unlabeled, and I'm just sort of flicking the wrong things on and off. So we tried to put some of these things in there that are more conveniently accessible. We'll be changing out some of the icons for a lot of those things on the left and right hand sides. We've got some animations for those icons coming along as well. And the center ring will do quite a lot as well for you. Craig can go into that in a minute. But there's a lot that we kind of think about when we're trying to decide what commands and what binds and what actions go into each screen.
Yeah, so speaking of which, especially speaking of the center part here, the next thing I'm going to show you kind of ties directly into this conversation. So I'm going to just pull this one up. So something really, really cool about Elite Dangerous is that it has a log file on your computer that actually captures everything you're doing within the game in real time. We're able to read that log file and then send that current, most up-to-date data to GameGlass. So essentially what we're going to be able to do is pull information from the game directly and then display it on your tablet. Now, I know a million people have been asking for exactly this functionality in Star Citizen, and trust me, this is exactly what we want to be accomplishing with Star Citizen as well. Because if we had that data, we can put your shield status and have your landing gear status and everything else just on GameGlass. But without something like that that Star Citizen makes, then we're unable to really do anything like that unless we got into memory reading, which would be against terms of service, and we would be completely shut down. So we're not going to do that. So essentially what we're going to be able to do with Elite is gather any kind of data that we can get from the log and then display it within GameGlass. So at the top, you can see under the flight systems bar there, you'll see your name, what ship you're in, what location you're at, and your current amount of credits. And then the middle section here, this is going to be very animated and very cool. So we actually have the current status of your ship in the middle, which is your frameshift drive ready. So that's saying your frameshift drive's ready. If you click on Super Cruiser Hyperspace, the frameshift drive actually charges, and we're able to match the charging state within GameGlass. So that yellow background will move up. It'll be like a loading screen. So it's basically mimicking what is actually happening in the game. In that same regard, if we go to the next one here, if you just did a frame drive, you will see we can do something where it says you're on cooldown. So you're able to have all that information at your fingertips as well, which is great. So that's essentially the idea of how the API works and how we're going to be utilizing it. The next shard we want to show you is actually much, much cooler. JC2K, yes, we're showing ED right now. So that is correct.
So what you're seeing changing for everyone who's hopefully following along is that center ring has an outer ring around it and fill up as your frameshift drive charges. and then once you come out of hyperspace, it'll cool down. There's a cooldown period. It will be able to detect that through the log file, and we'll have a cooldown ring essentially telling you when you're able to use it again. It's just one of the examples we have for how we're able to, now that we've got some data from a game, unlike Star Citizen, we're able to use that data to give you a bit more information and make playing the game a bit more intuitive.
That's right. So yeah, if you have any questions about this, obviously just post them in chat. But let's move on to our unreleased shard for Elite Dangerous. Andy?
Yep.
The next one is very cool. So this is the combat shard. Go ahead, Andy.
I was going to mention just quickly for the throttle increments that we had for Elite Dangerous back there. It's not intended to be a granular control for your throttle. It's not to replace your normal throttle control. It's meant to be a bit easy for you to hit the common throttle points that people usually like to hit. Mainly the 75% kind of throttle mark when you're trying to hit that sweet spot to get yourself to a destination.
Right. So the combat screen, this is actually the first time anyone's seeing this. So the amount of data that's going to be captured from the log here is very, very cool. There's loads and loads of different things we can do with the log file for combat. As you can see at the top left, we'll just kind of go through this real quick. So the top left, you have your target acquired. That happens in stages when you're actually targeting an enemy ship. The first stage, you can get their ship name. The second stage is the player name and their rank. The third stage is their shield percentage and their hull percentage. And the fourth stage would be a whole bunch of other stuff like faction, legal status, bounty, subsystem, and subsystem HP. And then you can change your fire groups, obviously, so previous and next. And then you've got an actual fire group switcher. So with the log, again, this is required. You need the log for this to work. But we'll be able to detect what current fire group you're on, and you're going to be able to change it dynamically. So if we know you're on 4 and you want to go to 1 and you press 1, we know how many times we should press previous fire group to get to that specific fire group. So we can dynamically do that for you. Then we have some additional buttons below that: heatsink, shield, cell, chaff, and ECM. And then hard points there. That's really cool because you'll be able to. It's a different kind of interaction than we typically do. And in order to deploy your hard points, you slide that slider from the left to the right. Then you've got a targeting array underneath that, which is similar to the Star Citizen one. And then on the right, you're going to get some additional data. If you're under attack, that indicator will light up. If there's a heat warning, that heat warning will light up. That's its idle state right now. Under attack is in its active state. Same with shields recharging. Then you got flight assist and your pips information. And under your pips, your system, engine, and weapons, you have the dots that will actually match what's happening in the game. So Andy, why don't you talk real quick about what the API, like how we're going to be doing that and how that's going to work as a shard itself.
Yep. So the API, there's going to be essentially 2 versions of these shards. So for Elite Dangerous, as everyone knows, we like to have, for all of the games that we support, our plan is to have at least 1 or 2 free shards for those games. So both of these 2 shards will be free. The combat shard and the flight system shard are free. However, one of the things that we are doing, though, is there's a fair bit of work and some ongoing cost involved in us to do the technology behind the scenes to let us read that API file, that log file, from your PC, and then manage the state of your devices to read that data and to make all those connections work. So the way we're planning to do it is both of those shards will be free, but there'll be a version of them that don't have that log file reading, and that extra log file data integration will be a paid extra. So if you're happy just to have the standard flight and combat shards, you can absolutely grab those. They're completely free. If you like the sound of all the extra data integrations and all the log file reading that we can do and all the extra information that it gives you, you'll have the option to grab that as a little extra. But those two shards will be completely free.
And of course, I mean, if you have a glass pass, that will be included with your glass pass. So just to get an
Absolutely.
idea, this is what it will look like without being able to read a log file. So still very cool, and it still looks great. It's just if we don't have that data, then there's not as much we can do with that specific shard.
And the reason for that cost is that there's a lot of work that is involved in reading that log file, and there's some tech that we need to do to make sure we do that reading and that transmission of data between your log file, which is on your PC, and the host in your devices, and doing all of that securely. So that's the reason for some of that cost. It will be a tiny cost. We'll let you know what it is closer to the time, but it won't be very much. But there is a little bit of a cost for that extra data integration. And the idea though is when we talk about it in a second, there are a lot of other shards we'd like to do for Elite Dangerous. And this data integration, when you pick it up, it'll work for a lot of these different shards. So we're showing you just 2 shards here for Elite Dangerous, where we have that data integration in place. But it'll be present in a lot of the other shards we do for Elite Dangerous too. And if you grab that data integration upgrade, it'll be sprinkled through all of the shards. So you're not buying it per shard. Once you get it, unlocks it for all the Elite Dangerous shards.
That's right, yeah. So, again, any questions, put them in chat. We'll get to them at the end here. So the next thing let's talk about is I'm going to go over to this screen here.
So we've got some other shards planned for Elite Dangerous. I might zip through those, Craig.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead. Let's talk about that real quick first. Yeah.
Just to mention a few of the other shards that we're planning to do for Elite Dangerous. So those are the 2 basic ones, and they kind of cover a lot of the day-to-day for most people inside Elite Dangerous. But we are planning a few other shards. So we're going to do a mining shard, which is going to help you manage mining gear and modules specifically. Things like collector limpets and cargo space refiners, that kind of thing, fire groups for your mining setup. We are looking at doing some integration with some of the data sources for Elite Dangerous as well, finding places to buy and sell your mined void opals. We're going to do an exploration shard, which is going to be a bit more focused on the usage of the exploration gear, so your discovery scanner, all of that stuff. And then we're going to do an SLF and an SRV shard too. So kind of a bit like the vehicle shard we have for Star Citizen, but upgraded. There's quite a bit more functionality for Elite Dangerous vehicles. So there'll be an SRV shard and an SLF shard as well. The SLF one will be a bit more focused on commands for the ship launched fighters, and the SRV shard will be a bit more focused on, obviously control for your SRV. There will be a social shard as well for Elite Dangerous. That'll have, everyone who's played Elite Dangerous, also known as Screenshot Simulator, will know there's a ton of camera controls. So there'll be a social shard for Elite Dangerous, which will be focused on camera and the gallery, but there's no emotes for Elite Dangerous, so there won't be an emotes part of the social shard.
Right.
So that's what we have planned for Elite Dangerous. So flight and combat, and then and SLF and SRB.
Yep. And I guess we'll talk about another one real quick here. So this is our Discover shard. And sorry, do you have anything else on what you were just talking about with Elite?
Nope. It's good. Okay. Good segue into Discover.
Yeah. So a lot of you have already seen this, the Discover shard. Yeah, I see in chat. You love it. Great. So progress is being made on this right now, and we're really excited about this one too. And basically what we want to show you is how this is going to be a cross-game shard, which is our first cross-game shard. So the idea is you're going to have this Discover shard on Star Citizen, which is going to give you all this information here, but we want to be able to do that exact same thing on any game, because Discover shouldn't be limited to a single game. So what you're going to see next is the Elite Dangerous version. So, I mean, it's basically the same thing, except you're seeing it in Elite Dangerous. So again, the whole point of this is that it doesn't matter what game you're playing, you're going to have the ability to explore the game a little bit more in depth, get in touch with different content creators. Eventually, the game plan is to be able to submit your own guides. So, if you're a fledgling content creator and you want to get listed on GameGlass, it's going to, boost your exposure, obviously, if you put together really good guides. So there's all kinds of stuff we can do with this.
No, we're really excited about Discover. I think one of the things we really love about GameGlass has been friction from playing games, and one of those points is what do I do? What can I do in this game? What is a cool, fun thing to do that I might be interested in? So if we can use GameGlass both to give you specific guides for the thing you already know how to do, but also to help surface some of the things that might be fun for you to do that you didn't know were out there, that would be really cool. So we're really looking forward to Discover being a bit of a, I'd like to do something new in a game. I'd like to do something fun. Let me browse through Discover and find something I can do that would be super cool for me to try. So it's like kind of surfacing some of those new game loops and those new features of games.
Right. Yeah, so if there's any questions about Discover, again, post it in chat. I think Discover's, we have it up for pre-sale right now if you're interested in getting it for a little bit of a discount, or, obviously you can wait until it releases. GlassPass users will have the ability to test it before it comes out and live to everybody else. So let's actually segue in. Andy, I didn't... Go ahead.
Before we do that, though, we would... So the way we're populating content for Discover is that we are partnering with a whole bunch of content creators to help create those guides. We'll be creating some ourselves, but we have some great content creators that are going to be helping us produce those, and they'll have them on their own YouTube channel. They'll have them in Discover as well. But we'd love to hear from you guys about what kinds of guides you would like for Discover as well. So if you have any suggestions for the kinds of things you would like to see in there, either for Elite Dangerous or for Star Citizen, and as Craig said, the intent and the plan and the way that Discover will work is it will be there for any game that you play. So when you fire up, I don't know, just for completely random example's sake, I don't know, maybe No Man's Sky, for example, there'll be a Discover for No Man's Sky too. So if you have any suggestions for guides, definitely let us know.
Yeah. So actually, the next thing I wanted to talk about, I forgot to create a scene for. So you might see some weird stuff going on here. But let me just change all this stuff. Okay. So, can everyone see this? I'm not sure if it updated, if I can do it live.
It's a bit small. There we go.
Is that better? Okay. Great. So, custom themes. I know that this is a much requested feature as well. Custom themes. Yeah. So basically, you're going to be able to, this is obviously GlassPass only right now. It has the ability to change their themes. We've got the default, a green one, a blue one, a red one right now. We will add more presets in the future. But what we wanted to work on is the ability to do custom themes. So you're going to be able to just go into your themes and change the different colors, whatever you want, give it a name, save it, and GameGlass will change to, whatever you want it to be. So another idea of this would be...
So you can see there's quite a lot of different color elements for you to be able to change, all the different highlight colors, text colors. So there's a lot of, and we've been doing a lot of re-architecting behind the scenes to let you change each of these elements very dynamically.
Yeah, and the next screen you're seeing here is just how it's going to be selected when you have a GlassPass. So you can choose, right now, at the top you have your default light green, blue, and red. That's already in GameGlass. You can do that if you're a GlassPass user right now. Yeah, so we also made some custom themes for, some of our buddy guilds or orgs. You can see test and enemy contact, bias. I know that there's some test people here right now, so they might appreciate seeing some specific test colored themes, which is very cool.
You'll be able to create your own themes. We are not at all responsible for the rainbow bath you will inevitably apply to GameGlass in the future. But we look forward to seeing that. Post those screenshots.
Yeah. Great. Anything else you want to touch up on for the theming stuff before we get into the...
good.
Okay, well...
Onwards.
Then you know what's next, right?
Hey. So we've been working on a little bit of secret project behind the scenes. It's cool. It's super cool. It's a little project. It's a little fun project. One of the most requested features is, what could I do with GameGlass to help me not quite be so bored during those long quantum travel flights in Star Citizen? Or what can I do when I'm waiting for my buddy to sign on and I'm kind of idling on the launch pad and I'm waiting for my buddy to join? So we wanted to create something that helped you fill in a little bit of spare time when you are playing a game. So with zero further ado,
Dun, dun, dun.
Craig can show any minute now. We are creating a little mini game inside GameGlass called Hyperspace Narwhal. It will be a little arcade shoot 'em up that will let you play a mini game inside GameGlass in those little bits of downtime while you're playing another game. So it's the game within a game within a game. And we're super stoked about it. I love narwhals. They are literally my favorite animal because they're the derpiest animal in the world. So we doubled down on the derpiness, and it's going to be super fun. So we've got a little gameplay screen to show you. So we might just whip that one up.
Sure. So obviously this is just concept art. The real actual game is going to look a little bit different than this.
So the idea is it's a side-scrolling arcade game named the Narwhal. On a name for our Narwhal dude. The horn on the Narwhal is a replaceable weapon, so you'll be able to upgrade your little weapon horn, and it'll be a side-scrolling arcade game. Blow up the space walruses, the dugongs. And get upgrades. One of the cool things about it, though, is that we record your high score, and we record it to our servers. So you'll have your own high scores, but we will also be tracking high scores across the entire community as well. So if you get up there with your high score, that will be awesome, and everybody will see that. Narwhals with frickin' laser beams, that's absolutely correct. So we're going to go a bit bananas with it, with the effect. It's going to be a pretty fun... kind of bit ridiculous, I think, game, but it's going to be a fun little, and it's designed to be really easy to play. It's designed to be just that kind of 3 to 5 minutes. I'm just filling in a bit of time between doing something else. It'll be really easy to play with one hand, with one finger. And you'll be able to rack up some kills, blow up some dudes, and have some fun. So Hyperspace Narwhal is coming soon. It'll be free for everybody with GlassPass, and you'll be able to buy it as a standalone shard if you like it as well.
Yep. So any questions about that, obviously, post in chat, and we will get back to it later. Let's just look at our schedule here, Andy. Oh yeah. So one of the cool things about it is you're going to be able to access it from any game. Of course, it's a shard. So if you're playing ED or you're playing Star Citizen, it doesn't matter. You'll be able to access it directly from GameGlass, from the shard. So for now, we're going to focus on having it for tablets because tablets are landscape and they give us a lot of control. But we are working on some ideas for different fragment-sized versions of Hyperspace Narwhal as well.
Yep. Potentially coming soon to a store near you as well. We'll see.
Okay. So I believe that's all of the announcements we had, and we can start doing a Q&A. Let's go.
So we had a ton of questions sent through to us. Tons and tons and tons and tons. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to go through every... We do have... there were some common questions, so we'll kind of go through and group them up a little bit. Staggered development. Don't mention staggered development.
Actually,
Triggering.
Andy,
Um,
before we do that, why don't
so
we should pick a winner for the first giveaway.
yes. So what is a shard? Welcome, me not an alien, to glad to have you here. So what we're going to do is, so we asked people to send in a question, and we're going to pick one to win a Kindle Fire tablet. The Kindle tablets are kind of the default we tend to recommend for people. They're super cheap, they're easy to grab from Amazon, and they work pretty well for setting up a little GameGlass rig. So I have randomly, where am I? Over here. I have randomly picked one, and that person is, where is it? Here it is. Scott Lepp. Not sure you are in Discord or you are in chat here, but Scott Lepp, we have your address because you sent in a question. We will be in contact with you, and we'll sort out your Kindle Fire tablet. Congrats.
Yes, and now for you chat folks, let's pick a winner here for everyone entered our Twitch raffle. Let's go and pick a winner. Gianna is your winner. I swear you've won stuff before. I recognize your name. Anyways, so now that you've won, let us spin the wheel.
So when we get through these questions, I apologize in advance. We're going to make so many names for this Q&A. So I apologize in advance if your name is not pronounced the way we pronounce your name. We're very sorry, but we're going to massacre all the names.
Actually, let's make sure Gianna is here. Yes, you're here. Yes, you won. And you have a glass pass. That's great, but now you can give one away. So let us spin the wheel. Let's see if this works. Nothing's happening. Did anything happen for anybody?
Nope.
Oh, he passes. He passes. He doesn't want it. Okay. Let's pick a new winner. Vargas 2774. Are you here, Javargas? We'll just wait here a second. Yes, you're here. Congratulations. Okay, let's try to spin this wheel again. It doesn't want to spin. This is what I was worried about. This thing never seems to work. You know what? I'm going to just spin it on my own.
All right.
Yeah, I'm just spinning it on my own. I know you can't see it, but I'm going to tell you what you won. And you won. I can do sound effects if you want.
Please do.
1 month of Glass Pass. Congratulations. So just message us in Discord or here or wherever you want, and we'll get you set up with that. What we'll do is we'll start another giveaway. Don't hit raffle yet. I haven't started it yet. Complete. Let's do another one. All right, we just started another one. Hopefully that works. There we go. Exclamation mark raffle to enter. All right, let's go over questions.
Cool. So we're going to start with we've got there's a few shards that we have. Oh, raffles! It's the chat stream very active. So we've got a few shards that are in progress at the moment. So we wanted to have a quick chat about some of the shards that we have already started pre-selling, and give you a quick update on the status of some of those. We've had some questions on when a few of the outstanding shards will be finished and when some of the missing features from those shards will be finished. So we might just zip through those real quick. Craig, will I ask you some questions and you can answer them?
Sure.
Great. When do we think the rest of the mining will be completed? For those that don't know, in the mining shard, a section off to the one side that is intended to give you a bit of a rundown for how much the different resources you can mine might be worth, and where to go and sell them. A bit of a trading assister.
Yeah, so actually, I'm just looking at our sheet here. I think the top three questions are all relevant to this answer. Um, Basically, the reason we're not implementing that first is that it requires a lot of work on our end to do it properly. And we don't want to release something that gives you data that's not always kept up to date. And our plan for that was to have the community be able to contribute data to GameGlass in order to have the most accurate and up-to-date data at all times without relying on third parties or Star Citizen itself to know where that data is coming from. So that way, people that use Glass or GameGlass, it's always going to be up to date for them. So the reason the mining one isn't done is because we started discussing on how we're going to be able to capture that data, process that data, moderate that data, and everything to do with that. So version 1 of data collection contribution is actually going to be what we're doing with Discover. The reason we're doing that is it's a good stepping stone onto what we want to be accomplished with any other data collection in GameGlass. So the ship data bank as well as the mining shards. The Discover shard is that first block we need to implement as far as content creation and contributions go from third parties. And that's going to start with actually partnering with content creators and creating those guides through an interface within GameGlass, not the app itself, but within the website. So you're going to be able to contribute through there. And then once we have that data, we're able to put it onto GameGlass. And then there's a whole rating system and views and all this other stuff as well. So the idea is that once Discover's done, it'll let us branch into those other shards a lot faster. So the next one, I would imagine, I don't know if that's been decided yet, but it'll be mining our chip data bank, and basically we just need to have all of our ducks in a row before we start doing that content submission. We want to make sure it's accurate. We want to make sure we're able to moderate it properly, and we want to make sure it's up to date for everybody at all times.
The good thing about the data model that we're heading towards, Craig said, lets us do a lot of other things with that. So we'll be able to. So definitely things like the ship data bank makes it really easy to do that, but it'll let you create data on almost anything. So for exploration, for example, recording and sharing exploration data, potentially fleet diagnostics or combat stats. There's a lot of things we can do to gather data from the community and let you either keep it just for yourself. You don't have to share it, but keep it in a way that maybe it's just for you, or it's just for your org, or just for your fleet or your friends, or be able to share it with the wider community as a whole. So we're heading towards a spot where it's easy for the community to record their own data and then to share it as widely or as narrowly as they like, and then manipulate that data as well to do really interesting things with it. So the when is a bit trickier. It'll definitely start to roll out waves as we build on this technology. Discover will be done soon. Craig has banned me from giving any concrete dates or release windows, but soon, TM. And then mining shard and chip data bank will be coming soon after that. So they're all in a very active development, and we have very, very specific plans for them. So stay tuned for updates.
Yeah, and actually somebody messaged in chat here about, before we forget, Andy, about the watermark. So why don't we talk about that?
Yeah, good
real
one.
quick? Where was that? I lost it now.
You want to talk watermarking?
Yeah, so I think what we're going to be doing is removing the watermark for everybody. It really hasn't accomplished what we were hoping for, and as many people that use it and don't mind it at all and appreciate promoting GameGlass, it's just we would rather remove friction as much as we possibly can. So if we get rid of the watermark, we feel like that's a nice little touch, and you can use that. Don't forget that taking a screenshot with GameGlass is different than taking it from Star Citizen and pressing print screen or whatever the Star Citizen key binding is, because we take it directly from your graphics card buffer, which means it's the highest quality resolution and everything else it could possibly be. So that's the plan with that right now. As for themes, there's no intention right now to make that an individual shard. That is a game or a Glass Pass exclusive feature right now.
Snall, thanks for the note on my mic being a bit weird. I've moved it in a bit closer. It is primarily become upside down here in Australia. It makes sound super weird. We have to keep managing it. It's really weird here in Australia being upside down. All the sounds are backwards. It's a thing. Look it up. New games. Shall we talk about some new things? What maybe are for some new games?
Actually, real quick. Oh yeah, you just answered the Discover. Yeah, so new games. So, question here from Duffy: are you thinking about shards for No Man's Sky or Warframe?
Yes, Duffy. Yes, we are. So we've got quite a long list of games that we would like to create shards for. Craig and I and the rest of the team, we're always thinking about what games would make good experiences for GameGlass. Typically, what we're looking at is games that are a little complex to control is kind of the sweet spot for GameGlass, but we do think there is a lot we can do for games where we can either be providing reference information that might help make it a little bit easier for you to decide what to do, or easier for you to know what to do next or how to do certain things. Not every game we create a shard for has to be about, or that we support has to be about controlling the game directly. So absolutely, No Man's Sky is on our short list, and on our very, very short list, in fact. How many of you guys have been playing the new update, the new Beyond update?
I played a little bit in VR. I thought it was pretty cool.
Oh, in VR, it's incredible. But No Man's Sky is coming very, very soon. We definitely things to share for that soon. Something like Warframe is really interesting. Warframe's, when you play the game, Warframe's a really interesting design. There's got very much two halves of that game. When you're playing missions and you're out there running and gunning, you typically wouldn't be interacting with GameGlass because it's such a Twitch game. But there's a lot of interactions we can help you with when you're back on your lander. We can definitely help you with knowing what to craft and what resources and materials you need. Potentially helping with some of the different mission sets. So something like Warframe could potentially be on that list. It is on our roadmap, but there are a lot of games that are on there. So Elite Dangerous, definitely, obviously. World of Warcraft is a really interesting one. Craig, do you want to have a little bit of a chat about some of the thoughts we have for World of Warcraft?
Yeah, sure. It's interesting that I played beta vanilla World of Warcraft back in 2004 or something, a long time ago. Yep. So I haven't played it throughout the last 15 years, but I go way back. I actually founded one of the beta server emulation teams that was the most successful when I think I was like 12 or something. So I have a lot of history with World of Warcraft. We started a website, me and my friends, wowtavern.com. That didn't go anywhere. But no, I have a lot of history with that, and it's near and dear to my heart. So now that Classic's been released, Andy and I have been playing that a little bit, and it brings me back. I'm sure it brings him back too. And it's there's a lot of cool stuff we can do with World of Warcraft. I don't know how much we really want to talk about today. One thing Andy and I talked about yesterday was basically a user-generated macro library shard, where you're able to go and input different macros into this vast database of macros. So you'd be able, for a user, you'd go to this shard and you'd select what class you're playing, then you'd select what you're trying to do, and then it would give you a list of different macros with ratings and reviews and comments and all this other kind of stuff. And you just press a button, it'll copy it to your PC, and you can just go paste it into your macros and it's all just kind of handled for you. So that's kind of the one thing we've really been talking about, but we've just been talking about a whole host of different games and what we can do with them, and if it makes sense for us to pursue them.
So something like it's really interesting. World of Warcraft is a really interesting example for us. So classic and retail are very experiences, obviously. For something like classic, macros help so much with that, and we think there's potentially something interesting there. Retail is much more, and Craig and I were talking about it the other night, it's much more kind of this on rails kind of theme park experience rather than open world. So there might be something we can do with World of Warcraft retail, helping you kind of manage the different tracks that you want to be on. Do I want to be on the zone completion track? What do I need to do? Because World of Warcraft has some interesting character tracking APIs that we can do to look at how many quests you've done in a zone or which quests you've done in a zone. So we can help you unlock certain reputations or unlock certain extra things. So that's an example of the kind of shard that's not about controlling your character. It's just about giving you some information and some references that help make the experience of playing those games a bit more intuitive and removing some of the friction from trying to achieve the things you want to achieve. Completely changing track, though, one of the big things we're very often about, a surprising amount, is games like Euro Truck Simulator, DCS. We have got a question that we were sent in about American Truck Simulator, which I didn't even know was a thing.
I didn't know that was a thing either.
So there's lots of War Thunder, definitely Zonti. So there's a ton of those games that are more of the hardcore simulator games, and they are very much on our radar as well. DCS is a tricky one because part of what makes it so amazing is the very high fidelity and accuracy of the instrumentation in that game, and replicating that for GameGlass is a challenge, but it's interesting. But definitely games like Euro Truck Simulator, even some racing simulator games as well. We're very much looking forward to branching out into games that are a bit more in that sort of simulation space, that are kind of sitting next to kind of the Elite Dangerous and the Star Citizens.
I heard there's a new game Microsoft is releasing next year, I believe.
Don't know anything about that. No idea what you're talking about.
Flight Simulator 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, so I'm assuming that we'll be able to do something with that, but obviously nothing's been really talked about for it yet, so not much to say about it yet.
Yep. Sean asked us if we're looking for single-player games, and the was Outer Worlds. I think he meant Outer Wilds. Or do you mean Outer Worlds? That one. Yes.
Like
Outer Worlds. Yeah, definitely. We've been thinking about some experiences we can do for single player games. It all depends on a lot of it depends on keybinds, and a lot of it depends on obviously how accessible they are, but also the experiences we think we can create. As long as if we think we can create something compelling that adds to the experience and makes you feel like you're more inside the game, not less inside the game, because that's kind of what we're trying to do, then single player games are a possibility for us as well. But for the short term, we're definitely looking at No Man's Sky very soon, and then potentially something for World of Warcraft, but definitely branching out into some of the simulators too. So Euro Truck Simulator, Farming Simulator, potentially DCS is on our radar. So simulator games are coming soon, along with some cool stuff for No Man's Sky.
Yes, sir.
We had a lot of questions about different compatibilities with different things. So we're not going to go through all of these directly, but we might just cover off kind of a few of them. Craig, do we have any plans for helping with larger screens? So any plans for potentially using GameGlass on a very large touchscreen monitor that's a PC, or bigger screen, 13-inch and above, or working on with PC monitors generally?
Yeah, definitely. It's on our radar. The way we coded it originally was based on breakpoints, which is not a good way of doing it, but it was a quick way of doing it. So when we do refactors, that's one of the things we'll be focusing on, and it'll be about scaling with screen resolution versus setting breakpoints and doing sizes based on breakpoints. So right now, if we created breakpoints for large monitors, then another one for extra large monitors or anything like that, then it's just a whole bunch of extra code we have to maintain, which is not a good way of doing things. So Elite Dangerous, I believe, is going to be coded this way from the start, where it's just going to be based on scale. So the larger screen you have, the bigger everything is, and much like a mobile game would scale based on screen resolution. So that definitely is something we've talked about and we plan on doing.
We've had a few questions about screen orientation. So anything that we can change for options for people to use smaller screens in landscape mode?
It's something we've talked about. I would. It's tricky because GameGlass is just an individual program, and right now what we're doing is we're detecting whether you're using a mobile device, and if you are, we're flipping it to a portrait mode fragment display. The reason we're doing that, I mean, just look at your phone, compare it side by side to your tablet. Look at how much real estate there is. There's a reason we're using fragments. It doesn't make much sense at all to use your pinky finger or something smaller to press all of your buttons because they're so small. Now, a different question is using fragments in landscape mode, because a lot of people have their phones set up in landscape mode just by default, and we've explored it, definitely. It's just very complicated with how we're already doing device detection, and then basically be able to detect that device and have it in two different orientations, but also be able to apply a fragment mode to it as well without having a separate application. So it's something we've talked about. It's something we're trying to figure out in the most seamless experience possible, but nothing to really report on that yet.
We would like to, generally speaking, we like to give the option to pick what they want, not what we think they should have. So, for example, Craig's right. Using a full shard on a mobile phone in landscape mode does make the buttons a little bit small and it's a bit hard on the eyes. But if that's something you want to do, if your eyes are great and you've got a big ass Samsung phone
and tiny fingers,
we want to be able to give you that option. So that kind of thing hopefully will be coming at some stage.
Right.
We've had a few questions about using GameGlass on a second PC to control a game on the first PC. So using a laptop for GameGlass, for example, or maybe a Raspberry Pi or something smaller. Maybe let's talk a little bit about why that's a challenge.
Are we talking about a completely separate PC?
Yep.
Well, I mean, with a completely separate PC, it is possible as long as it's a touchscreen monitor. It's possible right now. As long as you're on the same network, you can already do that. As far as the Raspberry Pis go, I'm not too familiar with how Raspberry Pis work, honestly. So maybe that's a better one for you.
Generally speaking, it's not too bad. So Raspberry Pis, as long as it's the same network, it's going to be okay. The issue is that the host needs to be able to input your commands. So if your phone is connected to your laptop is listening for the keybind commands from the devices that are attached to it. But your game is on your PC. So whatever is on the host that is on your PC where you're playing the game, that host needs to be able to listen for the commands from those devices. So having it work on a second laptop is a bit tricky, just because it's not listening to commands in the same room. Essentially, it just can't hear them. The game and the host aren't listening to each other. A similar question we have is, can I have a host running on my PC and then a second monitor on that PC and have that second monitor running GameGlass? And we have issues with that because we kind of have a mouse focus issue. Windows likes to have the mouse in one place, and when you are touching a screen on one monitor, it's essentially a mouse input. So it steals mouse focus away from whatever game you are playing. So that kind of makes it a bit weird.
Yeah, there's some ways around it by using virtual machines, but unless you're really familiar with that kind of stuff, then I wouldn't recommend going down that route. If you are curious about it, message James, the Stormtrooper, in our Discord channel, and he'll help you because he loves that kind of stuff.
Yeah. All right. Compatibility. So we've had a bunch of people asking, obviously, about for Star Citizen. Craig, what's the deal with the Star Citizen API?
I don't know. I wish I did. There's been some people that have said that we have API access, which is just they just don't understand GameGlass clearly. But we don't have API access. We're not a special case. We're not any different than anybody else doing anything with the game. So uh, we have no idea. I've done a bunch of reading on it and investigation for it. What it sounds like, I know it's on their Kickstarter that they're going to have an API, but I believe on that as well, it was mentioned that the API will be for Spectrum um, and something else as well. They never specifically said they're going to give an API to read game data coming out of Star Citizen. So I really am not 100% sure if that's going to be a thing or not. I would imagine they're going to do something, but I also know that they wanted to create an MFT application.
The companion app.
So again, I don't really think that that's going to be something where it's uh, doing what we're doing, where you're able to access different things in the game. I think it's going to be more of an informational driven MFD application. But we're not going to know for many years. There's no way they're going to be focusing on that for years and years and years and years. So, not too concerned about that. But I am interested to see what they had in mind.
Yeah, API is not something that is their focus. So much of the game is old and deprecated by the time the game comes out. So that'll be a long time before that appears, even if we have access it. And then if that API gives us data that we can use, then we'll see. But it won't be there for a long time. A Star Citizen companion app, who knows what form that might take? As Craig said, their focus is or should be on making the game, not on companion apps. But we'll see what happens with that in the future.
Yeah, and I just want to get a question out of the way because
Raven
Onslaught.
Kraken asked, with Star Citizen redoing their UI applications to the current GameGlass UI to match the new UI when it is released. Yeah, their UI work is super, super interesting. A lot of the principles that we use for building GameGlass, they share. So dynamic resizing and building components that are reusable and flexing for different sizes is definitely the right approach. When they settle on a UI direction, if we need to make some tweaks, then we can definitely do that. It's one of the great things about GameGlass is it's a web service essentially, so it's really easy for us to change out buttons, to change out styles and themes, to make sure it feels like GameGlass is still part of the game that you are playing. So if we need to update that UI, our GameGlass UI, to match the new Star Citizen UI, that's definitely something that we can do.
Yeah. So Onslaught, I'm gonna get to you now. You've asked in Discord and a few times in chat. I've seen that already. So as for the Windows 10 app, we actually pulled it. Windows is actually, I believe, they're stopping supporting their Windows Store as well. So we were wasting a bunch of development time on that. That could have been spent in more logical places. So what we've done is we've actually changed some significant structure things of GameGlass. And it involves different routing. So we're going to be able to do stuff like image sharing and all this other kind of stuff from GameGlass directly. But what that means is it is a poor experience for users that are using a desktop client because it pulls them out of full screen every time you change a page. So what we've done is we've actually created a standalone GameGlass application that is, it's not yet released, but it's not a Windows Store application. It's an actual GameGlass application based on Electron. So you'll be able to install that and use that soon. We're just still working on it and getting everything configured and building properly, and then we'll release it to everybody when it's done.
We've had some questions about attack and could GameGlass work with voice attack and how might that work?
It's a good question. I've never used voice attack, to be honest. I hear lots of good things,
yeah,
but I've never used it, so I'm not the person to answer that one.
That's okay. Yeah, no, I've used it for Elite Dangerous, and it's great for that. Some of the some of the voice for voice attack are really great. Who doesn't want data guiding them through Elite Dangerous? But it's tricky. I think they both have very distinct cases. I think we would definitely think about how does using them both together add to the experience rather than kind of replicate each other's functionality. It's definitely something that we can think about. Honestly, it's not very high up on our radar. It might be interesting to reach out to the people who make voice attack though, and have a chat with them. But it's not something we would do in the very short term, I would suggest.
Right. Just going through these here.
So we've had a lot of questions. So tons and tons of questions about that. Let's sort of start with maybe the simple things. So, Craig, what are our thoughts on letting people so we've already gone through the custom color pickup, let people create their own custom themes. That's a perk that is there for GlassPass subscribers. We don't have any plans right now to let that be we had a few people ask about it. There are no plans right now for that to be a single purchasable thing that you can buy as a single thing. Right now, we may change that if that's something that's highly requested. But at the moment, that's a perk for GlassPass members. So, is there any? What are our thoughts around letting people customize commands for buttons? So we kind of think about customization as a bit of a thing. On one end, there is completely build your own shard, and then at the other end, there's kind of tweak the shards that we already have. So at that other end, at the tweaking the shards we already have end, what are our thoughts around that?
Well, I mean, there's a couple different routes, but we've always wanted to give users the option to change, especially just keybinds directly from GameGlass. Actually, I had a cool suggestion recently. I don't know if it was a question submitted by email or somewhere else, but it was about if you press and hold on one of the buttons in GameGlass, it'll show you what it's currently bound to. And the idea was that you'll be able to match that in game, or you'll be able to explain to people that you're playing with that this is the keybind that does that. Which is a nice little tutorial way of doing things. But as far as customization goes, I think the starting point is just being able to customize all of your keybinds. I think beyond that, the next step would be, and this is something that actually Andy was pushing for way back when, wanted to have customizable button locations. So if you had a bunch of different actions you could choose from, you could modify your footer bar to have different types of buttons on it instead of what we're automatically just giving you. So that's the next step of that. And then beyond that, obviously, being able to completely customize and build your own shards is something that we've looked at with great interest. So we don't really have much to talk about that right now, but that is something that is pretty decently high on our list.
So that's a really common request. Is essentially, can I build my own shard with my own custom layout, with my own custom commands? That's absolutely, we don't want to say too much about it, but it's absolutely on our radar. It's definitely part of our longer term plans. We definitely want to get to a point where people have a lot more freedom to make what they want. But as Craig was mentioning, along the way, the plan is to let people customize in smaller ways and give them more and more options for that customization as we go, as we build up to a larger, more fully featured set of customization and building options. So we hear you loud and clear on the customization side of things. It's a journey that we are on, and you will come with us on that journey as we travel down that road.
Right.
Noob, hello.
Will there be ability to customize your screen layouts? We already talked about that. So another thing we could talk about for customization is the ability to move different aspects of a shard around. So if on your combat screen you wanted your shields on the other side and your power on the other side, you could do that, or you can combat on the left and then et cetera, et cetera. So just some flexibility with the grid system. That's definitely in the game plan.
Some interesting, and we'll get to feature requests. So I was going to say there's some interesting feature requests in chat here that may be worth us talking about. Fugma, the oh shit button is actually something that we've thought about. One of the things we want to do for a crew management slash fleet management slash kind of captain's shard is essentially an oh shit shard, an oh shit button, a battle stations button, a we're being boarded button that would let you hit one of these kind of scenario script buttons and then would send out a pre-programmed set of messages to the other people on your ship. So, for example, if you were the example you edited about to die, you could potentially hit the oh shit button, and then it would run a series of commands for you. It would hit red alert. It would lock all your doors. It would set your shields to forward. It would divert power from weapons to your engines, and then it would eject you, for example. So there's a bunch of these really cool kind of scenarios we could do. If boarded, for example, it would send messages to your crew to go to certain locations. It would maybe lock down all your doors. It would, do certain things. So definitely those kinds of scenarios are really interesting for us to think about.
Well, that gets even more interesting too when we integrate more social aspects of GameGlass, like a friends list, where you're able to know which of your org mates or whoever else is using GameGlass as well, and you press that button, and those their actual GameGlass shards will light up with that information as well. So if you go into a red alert, you press a button, everybody that's on your ship or in your group or whatever else will have their tablet lit up as well. And yeah, Noob are definitely a order pizza in real life shard. That is, it's been requested so many times. I'm almost just tempted to do it as a joke.
But yeah, that's the direction we want to head with GameGlass. Pizza specific technology is a big area of not below, yes, but there's the social aspect of GameGlass. Using when all your friends have GameGlass, using GameGlass as a communications channel with your friends is really for us. So what could we do if everybody in your fleet has GameGlass and you were the admiral of your fleet and you wanted to reassign roles to different ships in your fleet? And then each captain on each ship could reassign roles to each crew member on those ships in that fleet. So there's a lot of really interesting things we can do when multiple people that you play with all have GameGlass. Makes it really interesting for us as a communications channel while you're playing the game.
Yeah, obviously this is going to change depending on what CIG's plans are for multi-crew. We have really no idea yet. I mean, maybe their multi-crew stuff's going to be so good we won't need to do anything, but maybe it is. So we'll see.
We will see. So some questions here for feature. Is it possible for us to add the logos of manufacturers from Star Citizen to shards? It's a specific question, but unfortunately we can't do that. We're not allowed to use CIG intellectual property or assets. So we're really careful about even using names of manufacturers. We can't use any of their law terms, anything that's kind of essentially their copyright. We really try to steer away from. So definitely, we can use the words Star Citizen. We could probably use the word Anvil, but we definitely couldn't put any manufacturers' logos on your shards, unfortunately.
Correct.
Watermarks we've been through. What else do we have here that's interesting? So, Craig, what are we thinking about for the ability to synchronize interfaces when we make changes? So the example we will give here, if I were to change my shields on one device, having the graphic for that shield change be reflected on my other devices.
Yep, that's definitely possible. Right now, we're changing a bunch of stuff so we can properly integrate with the Elite Dangerous log. And that's going to require WebSockets. So we didn't do it before because that required a complete overhaul of our host. But now we're going to be doing it anyways because we need it in order to do stuff properly with the Elite Dangerous log. So what that means is we should be able to send that data back to your shards and update them in real time. Same with themes and everything else. Right now, I believe there's a sync button in your settings, and you can use that. And that'll just sync everything. So if you're changing a theme and it only changes on one of your devices and you want it on all of them, you just press the sync button and it should change for everything. but that's the plan.
We've been asked if it's possible to have a USB connection rather than Wi-Fi. That's on our roadmap. We have some of the tech for that, so that's definitely something we will look at. USB connections rather than Wi-Fi. Moby-Glass shard. Craig, can we replicate Moby-Glass in GameGlass?
That's interesting because technically right now, no. The problem with replicating Moby-Glass is that it requires an API to get the data back for it. But I did watch, I don't know if it was an Inside Star Citizen or one of the Star Citizen Lives, they were talking about the UI and how they planned on adding keyboard controls to it. Right now, you can't just load up your Moby-Glass, press right 3 times to go to this tab, and then down a few times, press enter, and set things. But if we did have the option to do that, then it opens up a whole host of opportunities for us. So if that was an option, then we would be able to do stuff like request landing just by having a simple macro to request that landing. So replicate exactly what you're seeing on screen, no. But perform different actions in that screen, hopefully soon.
Raffle is closed, Craig. Should we draw another one?
Sure. Let's do that.
While Craig is doing that, when is Elite Dangerous Shard coming? As I said, Craig has banned me from giving any release dates or release windows, but very soon. It is in extremely active development, and soon, if I say anything more than soon, I'll be in trouble. So soon.
Baticles, congratulations. Are you here? Let's wait a minute or so for him. Baticles, you are the winner. You are here. Congratulations.
Hooray.
Let's see if the spin wheel fixed itself. No, it didn't fix itself. So let me spin the wheel again. Okay. And we are spinning.
Oh, the tension.
Tick, 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 tick,
Can you
tick, tick,
feel it?
tick, 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 tick. And you won 6 months of Glass Pass. Congratulations.
Hooray.
Just send us a message on Twitch or on Discord or email us at hello@gameglass.gg and we will get you set up. Yeah.
Cool. So here's a bit of a broader question. We've asked if GameGlass could be used for things that aren't games. Could we use it for things like Photoshop or Blender, or could we use it for something kind of similar to what Stream Deck offers? What are our thoughts on that, Craig?
Yeah, definitely. Of course. But that comes with the shard building part of things. So we want to get everything set up right now for what makes sense for our community, which is the gaming community. So once we get everything sorted for that, then, I mean, obviously, if you really wanted to, once we were done that section, you could create a shard for yourself within the Star Citizen app that controlled things within Photoshop. But we will release like an actual version of it for different applications. This isn't for a long time. I mean, we've got way too many priorities to focus on that right now, but it just kind of comes with the territory. It makes no sense for us to not support things like that.
Yeah, so we definitely, there's a lot of thought about cases for GameGlass. When we do it well in those areas, and we may well head in that direction, it won't be for a long time. There's definitely a lot of work we want to do, a lot of commitments that we have, and a lot of energy we want to put into our to the games side of GameGlass. That's where our passion lies. That's where we started this from. That's where we want to spend our time and energy. If we do go in that direction, there's a lot of specific things we need to build to make it work really well. It wouldn't be GameGlass as we know it. It would use the same technology, some of the same interactions, but it really would require a very clear set of thinking around how we can solve those problems in really compelling ways. So it's on our minds. We thought about it, but it's not where our focus is right now.
Right. Yeah, and I totally get it because, you know, I do all the Photoshop work right now. I know most of them because I've been doing Photoshop since I was 12, but when I dabble in video editing and all kinds of other stuff, having labeled icons and buttons and all kinds of other stuff would be incredibly helpful for me. So I do understand the need for it, and it's definitely a route we want to take because there is a lot of other. I've seen videos on people that have 2 keyboards for video editing, one for just regular keyboards, and then another one for an actual macro keyboard. And so there's clearly a need for it in those cases.
Yep. And look, and when we do that, you know, people's productivity and workflows and for those hardcore use cases are very, very specific. So we want to make sure we have all of the technology in place for knowing what your commands are, and a lot of the customization really needs to be there as well, because everyone's productivity workflows for those use cases are so tailored. We really need to make sure GameGlass can conform around them. So there's a lot of tech we kind of need to build out for games anyway before we're able to get to some of those use cases. But yeah, look, I use Fusion 360 all the time. You know, there's a bunch of commands I'd love for that kind of stuff. That'd be great. So we'd love to do it. Amber, hopefully we can make you happy in the future, but not for a little bit. All right. A few questions just to finish things off before we wrap up. Before we do, though, really wanted to say thank you to everybody for coming along today. It was really great to talk about Elite Dangerous and Hyperspace Narwhal and some of the things we have planned. Hopefully you guys think some of that stuff is cool. There's a lot of stuff that we have behind the scenes as well that we'll announce when we are able to, but there's lots of wheels and things in motion. But we really couldn't be here without you guys. So the community from the very beginning has been a huge part of GameGlass. It literally let us get to this position. The early support from everybody during the crowdfunding was absolutely incredible. You know, the passion and the enthusiasm and the excitement and the fact that you guys are liking what we're doing is a huge motivator. It really motivates the team every day to keep pushing. So thank you for all of that. Questions for Star Citizen. What professions do we think we might build some shards for in the future, Craig? Anything on your list you'd love to do a new shard for?
I'm really stoked about salvage. So I know that actually I think the vulture or not the it's the vulture. Yeah, the vulture. The vulture's on the roadmap now for 3.9, I think. I don't think it was on there before, was it?
I think it was. It just got bumped out.
Oh, well, it's back on 3.9, which makes me happy. So I'm really excited for this salvage gameplay. That's the one for me, I think. I know that they're doing some ship-to-ship docking and refueling. I don't think those are actually going to be really big gameplay mechanics. I think salvage will be the next actual profession we're going to see. So that's definitely the one I'm most excited about, and thankfully it's the one that's coming the soonest.
For me, I think it's ship repair and outfitting with the Vulcan is something that would be super fun. I'd love to say exploration, but I'm very wary about how much genuinely unique stuff there is to discover. I'm not particularly enthused about seeing yet another tree on yet another rock on yet another planet that's like all the other trees and rocks. But if there is lots of unique stuff out there to discover, then exploration would be super high on my list. We'll see.
Yeah.
How's the response been to GameGlass?
Well, I think you
Craig,
covered that.
What do you think about how things are going?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of covered that in your last thank you just a few minutes ago, but beyond our expectations, that's for sure. We never thought we'd be at this point. This was just a fun little side project. It continues to be a side project, just so everyone's aware. I mean, we don't have anyone. Well, Alfredo's working on this full time right now, but he's the only one. Everyone else has a full time job and families and all kinds of other commitments. So it's um, where we've got to this point has just been incredible. The community support's been incredible. It puts a smile on my face every day knowing that we could accomplish something like this. So we're super proud and happy with where we're at.
Yep. How big is the team, and what is the team comprised of? There are 9 of us now in the team in various capacities. Most of those are front-end development, so actually making the shards themselves. We have one person, Doc, who does all our back-end tech, so making things like time cards work, and the data structures for Discover and those kinds of things. We have another developer, Mike, who is kind of he looks after the host programming side of things. Craig obviously does, and I kind of run the whole thing. Craig does all the visual design, for example, so all these beautiful shards, that's all his work. And then Chad, community manager, James doing a bunch of our tech support, and James does a lot more than just tech support. He does a ton of stuff behind the scenes as well for us. So yeah, lots of people doing a lot of cool things. But 9 of us, and we're all around the world. I'm in Australia, Craig's in Canada, America, Netherlands. So all over the show, which is pretty fun.
Yeah.
Will GameGlass support having multiple devices connected? It does. If you're a GlassPass member, you can have multiple devices attached and working.
Or if you buy a shard.
Yeah. Last ones. We're adding support for No Man's Sky. Yes, we are doing that. I think that's it. What tablets do we recommend for GameGlass? What's worked well for you so far, Craig? What would you recommend?
Well, I've got a Samsung Galaxy Tab S2. I've got a Kindle 7, a Kindle 8, and an iPad 6th Gen. And my preference, honestly... Oh, I also have I think I have the OG Surface. The Surface is basically dead at this point. The touchscreen doesn't work anymore. The iPad, I would say, is my favorite. I know it's the most expensive out of all of those, but just the experience on it seems a lot more fluid to me. I'm not a huge Apple fan to begin with, so it hurts me even saying that, but I would say for me, the iPad is the best experience so far. It's the snappiest, it's the fastest, it looks great on the display. The Kindles are great too, but they're just smaller devices, and they have a different aspect ratio. When somebody asks me about what device I would recommend, I always say a 10-inch tablet with 4:3 aspect ratio. So an iPad or a S2 tab, just because it gives you the most real estate, and that's what these shards are actually originally designed for. So that would be my recommendation.
As I said, often the cheapest and lowest or the easiest way to get in is the 8-inch Fire tablet. It works perfectly well. It's a decent size to be able to see everything. It's not, as Craig said, it's not the snappiest, but for the price, it's a really good way to buy 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 and get yourself a nice little setup.
We are on the Amazon store, so you don't need to sideload the Play Store or anything like that. So you'll be able to find it, no problem.
All right. Do we have any other questions in chat? Is there a way to pull data from the game scanning history? Flyer06, no, that would require an API access, which unfortunately Star Citizen does not give anybody right now. There's nothing that will let you do that.
Yeah. There's a couple other questions like that. Could a hypothetical trading shard for SC integrate with something like Versemate for live data? That's actually, there's no integration there. What they're doing is when you make a trade, you're inputting the data for that trade. So manually. They just have a database of that data that they're showing. Let's see.
I think navigation for Star Citizen, making planet range information essentially, etc. That's a really interesting one. I know the My Radar people have got a really cool app that lets you do some kind of points of interest stuff for locations in Star Citizen. So I highly recommend you check out My Radar for that. As for something more directly in the game or out of the game, again, that would require API access from Star Citizen itself. But it'd be a really cool use case for that, though, having some kind of navigation shard, flight paths, flight plans, that kind of stuff would be great.
Yeah, it's another question about the ability to have custom CSS to mod the design. No, that's not on our roadmap right now. Would it be possible to make the in-game chat true GameGlass? I think what you're saying is, can you have the in-game chat in GameGlass? And the answer again is you need an API for that to function.
Yeah, the things that we could do if we had an API of some kind or data read, we ton of extra stuff. But unfortunately, we're really constrained in Star Citizen right now. But definitely those kinds of things in the future, hopefully. With the future of Elite Dangerous shards, we'll be looking to interface with EDDB, external data sources for info. Yeah, things like Coriolis and EDDB are really amazing. They do what they do incredibly well. I don't think we necessarily want to bring in, the entire EDDB functionality into a shard. It's really designed as a website for you to use on a laptop, kind of sitting next to you. Pulling in some specific data from them, is definitely, there's potential for that. We'd want to make sure we're having conversations with those people. They've put a lot of work and time into their platforms and products, and that should be respected. But we can definitely look into that kind of thing. Certainly things like pulling in some data from Coriolis to do calculations on the effectiveness of your modules would be really cool. So maybe we'll see. Nothing to announce right now, though.
I think that sums up all the questions we had.
Yes.
Last chance. If you have a question, post it now.
Cool.
As far as the arc map goes, yeah, I don't know about tying into any of the Star Citizen data on the RSI site right now. Don't think it makes a whole bunch of sense because it isn't even really up to date, but question, how are you guys? Tired? What?
You're tired. No, I was up at 3:30 in the morning to get ready for this. I mean, I'm tired.
Yeah, Andy wins.
No, we're good. We're good. We're super stoked about working on this. It's being able to do cool things like Hyperspace Narwhal. All the cool shards we're doing for Elite Dangerous. There's a ton of cool stuff happening. We're looking forward to. Craig and I will be at CitizenCon with a bunch of the other team as well. So hopefully we can hook something up for a meetup potentially for our GameGlass peeps if you're going to be at CitizenCon. But no, it's good. We're rad. We're good. We're happy to be working on it. It's a great opportunity. It's a privilege. So thank you for letting us do it.
Yep. So yeah, thanks everybody for coming. We got one last question. We should probably answer that. In the event that CIG ultimately refuses to provide an API, have you considered incorporating screen scraping? No. Because that would be against TOS, I would imagine, and we don't want to do anything against TOS. So, that being said, again, thank you everybody for coming. We're really stoked about all the stuff we're working on, and what we'll do is we'll compile kind of what we've talked about today in an update post, and so you have access to all the different designs that we showed today, or you can watch the video again. It'll be on Twitch and YouTube. If you have any questions, hit us up on Discord, hit us up on email, Twitter, wherever else you want to. We appreciate the support again and hope you all have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Take it easy.